So is conservation of reptiles hinged on the back of killing rattlesnakes? The short answer is no, not at all. If you're unsure what a rattlesnake roundup is, in parts of the United States, Texas mostly, but a lot of other places too, during the spring, usually, but into the summer and sometimes in the fall, there are these roundups, oftentimes called rattlesnake hunts. The problem is, it's not hunting, it's poaching most of the time, and there is a distinct and very clear difference, and very important difference, which we'll talk about in 30 seconds here. But in short, a lot of the times there is a organization that says, all right, residents, go out, collect as many rattlesnakes as possible. We'll give you prizes for the biggest one, longest one, heaviest one, most rattlesnakes, whatever the case is. And then in a lot of cases, then they are inhumanely killed. Not euthanized, but killed, or their mouths are sewn shut, and then there's games at these fairs where, hey, let's take a bunch of these rattlesnakes, put them in a sleeping bag, and see who can sleep in the sleeping bag for the longest amount of time with rattlesnakes with their mouths sewn shut. Which is very cruel, by the way. They can't drink, they can't eat, they're definitely gonna die. Oftentimes there's kissing competitions. How many rattlesnakes can you kiss? By all these examples, their mouths are sewn shut, by the way. Now there are some places where rattlesnake roundups, it's kind of a cultural thing, and now they don't kill them, they release them, but other times they throw them in buckets of gasoline. So yeah, not great. It's torture. And don't get me wrong, I have no problem if it's legal in your area and you have a hunting license and you get a tag, or you're abiding by bag limits, or you're doing everything legally to go out and get a rattlesnake and bring it home and cook it for your family. No problem, as long as it's all legal, and in order for it to be legal, they're not gonna be endangered in that area. But anyway, we'll get more into that. So, what's the difference between hunting, which is okay? I mean, we'll talk about if you don't think hunting's okay, why you might wanna change your mind, and poaching. Well, hunting is still killing animals, and whether you feel it's icky or not, I mean, I agree with you, killing animals is icky. Without hunting, there is no conservation. Over 50% of all money that goes towards conservation is from hunting. Without hunting, you don't have conservation. That's just how it works. Sorry, I know it's icky, but I mean, if you want to change it, start donating your money to conservation, because most of it's not from donation or taxes, it's from hunting tags and things like that. Poaching, on the other hand, is when you go out and you kill an animal without buying a hunting license, without buying a tag, whatever the case is, you're basically stealing an animal and no money is going towards conservation. Also, you're just kind of randomly getting stuff, and you know, you can't do that. Like there's rhyme and reason for what you hunt and what you don't. So let's summarize here. Although it might be legal to do these roundups, by definition, a lot of the time, there are exceptions, it's poaching, not hunting. Because a lot of times, I mean, even if it's open season, then you take as many as you want and you bring them back and then you kill them for no reason whatsoever. So it's cruel and it's poaching. Now, let's get something straight. I used to call hunters a bunch of impotent losers. And it's not to say that some of them aren't, but the idea that just hunting makes you a loser or you don't like animals is not the case at all. Hunting and fishing is the reason that we have funds to conserve animals in the first place. Now, this is especially true in places like Africa, but definitely the case in North America. I don't have these figures for specific states, but it is over 50%. And in places like Ontario, Canada, where I live, conservation money is over 75% due to hunting and fishing licenses, tags, and things like that. In fact, in Ontario, where I live in Canada, we are begging for more hunters and anglers because these things are decreasing in popularity, oftentimes because of, well, pressure online. We all remember Cecil the lion from 11 years ago, where that dentist went out, hunted a lion completely legally. Well, technically he was a little bit outside the range, but it was the same lion he was going after. Anyway, he killed a lion. People got really upset. They started to go to his office. They started to protest, go to his house. It was a whole thing. And because of that, so many people didn't go hunting for those lions, which, by the way, were going to be killed whether it was a hunter or not. Instead of people going over and paying $300,000 to kill the lions and then putting all that money to conservation of the lions, they sent game wardens up in helicopters and mowed down lions instead and lost millions of dollars. So there is pressure on the internet for people not to hunt or fish anymore. I totally get it, but I think it's because you don't know the difference between hunting and poaching. And unlike rattlesnake roundups, when you go hunting, whether it's trophy or otherwise, and keep in mind, I can't understand why you'd want to go kill an elephant and then not take the meat Like, I don't get it. I know the meat goes to the village and the whole thing. Like, I just don't, I wouldn't do that. Now, this is obviously a real brain buster to even think about and conceptualize and make peace with, but my brain actually has been working pretty good lately, thanks to Magic Mind. If you oftentimes feel foggy or unmotivated, try Magic Mind. This is my secret to productivity. Natural ingredients, doesn't have any of that harmful stuff, and it's a subscription service, so it comes to you every month. Cancel anytime, no questions asked. Just go to magicmind.com/WWR and use my code WWR20 for up to 48% off your first order. Sometimes Magic Mind leads to an open mind, and I think you kind of need that for the subject of today's video. But either way, if you're gonna go deer hunting, let's say, which I'm sure a lot of you do, let me know in the comment section below, you have to get a tag, and there's a certain amount of deer that are allowed to be killed, and it has to be a male if it's, during this season. Sometimes there's does, I'm not getting into it. But sometimes for certain individuals, like if you go elk hunting way up north, certain times you are allowed to kill a specific elk. Maybe that elk is too old to breed and is a bully and is too big and it's hoarding all the females, even though he can't breed, which means he's not making the population any bigger, but in fact making it smaller, because he will kill any male who gets in the vicinity of the females. Now, obviously, to a population, this is a useless animal. A tag is put out for that elk. You can go shoot him, wham bam, Bob's your uncle. All the younger males now get to go in, spread the genetics. There is a much deeper genetic pool, and all the females are then getting bred, making way more elk. Now, this is the case a lot of the times with caribou and bison, and in Africa, giraffe, rhinoceros, there's great examples of that. But either way, the whole point is to actually proliferate the species, not only with the money, but anyway, I know it sounds so counterintuitive. I urge you to look this up. The point is, the whole argument that I've been seeing lately is that rattlesnake roundups are just like hunting and they help and the money goes toward, like, that's not true. None of this money goes towards conservation. It's just a bunch of people getting a bunch of money to kill rattlesnakes, and then you're basically trying to rid that population. And in fact, although most of the time in most places where these happen, there really isn't that much of a decimation of the population, and the population isn't seen to decline too much, there are instances where rattlesnake roundups do in fact start to participate in the decline of the species in the first place. Oftentimes diamondback rattlesnakes, which are pretty amazing animals, by the way. And then if you see a decline in rattlesnakes, you're gonna see an uptick in rodent populations, and like, they do fill a niche. You do need rattlesnakes. They're not endangered. There's no reason to go about killing them. There's no system to it like there is with big game hunting. And most people who kill the rattlesnakes aren't going to eat them in the first place. I think we can all agree, if you go hunting for a deer and it's within laws and the ecologists and scientists and conservationists say, yeah, we can, we have to kill this many deer per year, and you're the one paying to do it, then okay, you're feeding your family and you're doing the environment a favor. It's a win-win. But at the end of the day, we have to make these animals more valuable alive than dead to poachers. And there's other instances just like that. In fact, in Costa Rica, I went there with Reptiliatus and Alpha Reptile and all these guys, right? And what we learned was that most of the people who were guides who would take you to the animals, hey, I want to find a bushmaster, take me. The guy that our main guide would hire to take us to a place where there was bushmasters were once poachers. And what they've done in many parts of the world is make these animals more valuable. Let's suppose that you, as a poacher, get $100 for a bushmaster, which in some places are endangered. Well, let's suppose that they get 10 a year, it's $1,000. Then make it possible for them to earn $2,000 as a guide instead. And when you make them a guide, their entire income depends on them being able to find a bushmaster for tourists or YouTubers or whatever to go look at and film. So if they kill those animals or they don't stop those animals from being killed by other poachers, they can no longer make the same living in the first place. So, in fact, we need to make these animals more valuable alive than dead. And until we do that, we're not gonna make rattlesnake roundups go away. Although they are declining in popularity, thankfully. And listen, I love everything about Texas, live big and free and wild and everything that is Texas. But killing rattlesnakes, dude, is that really part of your culture? Going out and killing a bunch of snakes that they're not eating your livestock, okay? They're not hurting you. Most people who get bit by rattlesnakes in Texas or other parts, I know I'm singling you out, Texas, but it's other parts of the US too, are because you're messing with them. So I was trying to kill two birds with one stone here.
Get two birds stoned at once.
Because I get approached all the time about hunting and that whole thing, which obviously is counterintuitive. Killing animals can't be good for animals, but in fact, it actually is. And the only reason that we have a lot of species that are still here is because of that. And also the rattlesnake roundup thing, which recently, like, I've been getting so many messages about this. I don't understand where the logic comes from. And if you've been swayed, I'm telling you, I promise you, no, rattlesnake roundups are not good for rattlesnakes or any other reptile. It doesn't contribute any meaningful amount of money. We should stop doing it. Rattlesnake roundups are evil. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. I know this was a crazy one. Do you think that I'm crazy for my take on this? Have you done your research? Let me know. As always, thanks for hitting like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you could ever know. And as always, a special thanks to the Patreon supporters. You guys get videos early, discounts on merch, one-on-ones. I got a few of those tomorrow. All that for as little as $1 a month, and that's it. I do videos Mondays and Thursdays, so Diamond and I will see you in the next one.